showing as a mathematician. So what would Model It Monday look like? Model It Monday might be a bar model. It might be a single bar model where they're sectioning things off and calculating. It might be a double bar model like I've done previously where they're finding differentials or they're having to compare things. It might be a part whole model because they're doing simple calculations, they're looking at fluency, and this goes right down to year 1. So if I'm in year 1 and I'm doing number bonds to 10, then I'll be using this model and this model to show my number bonds to 10. And so from year 1, they'll be familiar with all these models and images. Touch It Tuesday is exactly what it is. We'll be using manipulatives, we'll be using equipment, we'll be using egg boxes, we'll be using whatever we need to do to be able to get those children who are really kinesthetic and need to touch and feel and build to understand things that are not so two-dimensional in a three-dimensional way. We're going to come on to Wednesday. This is not for the children to worry. It's what the teachers worry about. It's those misconceptions. So everything that we teach, when we're teaching something, we'll teach them what the common misconceptions are. So what could go wrong? What might we think about this? This is a really common one when we teach decimals. Straight away, for some reason, children, once they've done decimals, they think 3.1 hours is 3 hours and 10 minutes. And obviously it's not. It's not. And it's unpicking these misconceptions and then using them in our teaching to go back and further advance their understanding. Think It Thursday. This is where we really let them investigate. Open-ended investigations using all of the skills that they've been taught in their reasoning and their fluency. They're able to have open-ended investigations and build the resilience to keep going until they get there. Because what I've found when I'm observing lessons is a lot of the children look at this and they'll do the first bit and then they give up because they're fed up with it and they don't have that resilience to keep going and be excited about getting to the end. And so through this, the Think It Thursday thing will be about the resilience and getting to the end and showing your thinking skills and not just having a page full of calculations. Variety Friday, this is what used to happen. If you were doing any of the 4 operations, you'd get that big page full of, calculations, and you'd go through them all and you'd go to the end and you'd have your lovely big ticks, and there's nothing apart from the fact that you can calculate. The idea with Variety Friday is looking at procedural and conceptual variation, where the children have to think more deeply about the calculations that they're doing and the effect that numbers have on each other. So if this is procedural variation here. So you've got basically the same sum but one different digit in each one. You'd be asking the children in saying this would be year 2. What will happen to the equivalents in each of the calculation lines and how do you know? And yes, they understand the language of equivalence. We don't use equals anymore. They understand what equivalence is, that both sides are the same. They then need to explain how they know that that happens. So they will be saying, right, well, actually, it goes 15, 16 and 17. So it goes up by 1 each time. And so therefore I know that we're adding, it's an addition. So my answer's going to go up by 1 time. And then we'll be saying, prove it. Prove it to me. What's happening in this one? Oh, well, miss, the same thing's happening, but it's the bottom number. That's going up by, and they're spotting patterns. They're spotting themes. And so we're teaching children to think in a completely different way about their mathematical learning and not just understand a process that they've been taught. They're being taught to think as a mathematician. So, this is part of the TRG that I was on for the lesson design through the NCTM, which is the really big boffs who do maths. We've been working on this lesson design planning format and I've already been using it with some of the teachers in school. And it's about planning for all of these elements of mastery that I've just gone through. But what it'll do for our teachers is it'll give us a kind of teacher mind map where they're thinking about what is my key learning point, but this really thinking what are they going to get wrong, what are they not going to understand, at any point what's going to go awry in their learning, what have people got wrong before, and I'm going to teach that before it comes up so that they understand that this isn't quite right. Then it's about going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until they're actually thinking for mastery. this bit here, the domino gin, some people say gin, some people say ting, I think it's supposed to be gin. This is where they are put in a situation where they have to use every skill to be able to solve something that's going on mathematically. It's a trap, something that's really tricky, but what it is, more importantly, is an opportunity for them to think about it in a different way. So if we go right back to that first one with the washing powder, it's about thinking about maths in a different way. Can I use blocks? Can I use basic calculations built on each other without doing multiplying by 65 or dividing by 65, which has got a huge error rate? And it's teaching our children that this challenge is an integral part of their mathematical learning, and it's not something to be frightened of, it's not something to give up on, but it's something to be excited about when we get to it. This is an example of a domino ching, and it's where the student uses the skills that have been taught. So they would have already been taught how to find out the area of a parallelogram. They'd have already known to investigate whether they're both the same size, and then it takes it further and deeper. Well, can you do it yourself? Can you draw me different ones that have got the same area, you know, skinny long ones? And it's making them really think like mathematicians, because then if they're designing these problems, when they then see problems in their paper 2 and paper 3 in reasoning, they won't be fazed at all by them. They'll actually enjoy the challenge of taking them on. So that's the project. And the idea is that we've got 2 disaggregated inset days. We'll break them down into training sessions for teachers on a Thursday evening after school, and I will do all of the training. To support that, because I was part of the TRG, we got 50% matching on these Power Maths textbooks. And if you're thinking, well, actually, how does that look in year 1? How does it look? What's supporting teachers? Are they having to make everything from scratch? No, they're not. So if I show you here, these are some examples of conceptual variation and procedural variation. So this is year 1. This is what the children in year 1 will be doing. They've got this concept of, you know, subtracting by 3, but they've also got variation in how we're showing it, how we're representing it. And we're showing it in eating apples. So straight away, they're seeing that it's not just about number, it's about anything in life. Space, shape, measure, it could be anything. And they've got to be able to adapt the number to the item and the item to the number. If we look further on in, we've then got models and images. So you've got your part whole models there, and there are bar models as well for year 1. And it gets even more complicated because this is where they're having to really reason. So they've got the number 5, and then they've got the spidergram, and they've got to think of every single way. So this is a year 1 Don Now Ching. They're having to discover every single way of doing it and dig deeper and deeper and deeper in their understanding. And so every year group has got these, and it will save paper because they do it in the books, which is really exciting.
I thought done nothing thing was Vietnamese for do nothing.
Don't you tell my children that. No.
I genuinely thought that's what that was, you gave up.
So yeah, the children are having workbooks. So the children are having workbooks only for the first part of the lesson. Yeah. So where we are so far in our mastery journey is that as part of the TRG, I don't want to keep you too long because I can talk about maths all night. We've now split it in Singapore style. So we do a 30-minute interactive where the teacher does the teach, so it's on the I do, you do, we do process. They then have a break, a brain break, in order to myelinate, and then they come back and do 30-minute independent work. So this will be done during the I do, you do, we do as part of the teaching process. We've also got the textbooks, which go even deeper, which is what they will do in their traditional workbooks, where you'll see their work as normal, so they'll have both to support their learning.
So each child's got one of those?
Each child's got one of those because it works out cheaper than photocopying, and we've got 50% off this year.
And that's an ongoing cost?
It's an ongoing cost if we feel that the cost benefits the cost of photocopying, because we've got no maths, no problem, and we photocopy and photocopy and photocopy and glue stick like no tomorrow. So actually that could be a real, you know, cost negative. Whereas when you've got a child who's not got a lot and you give them something like this to work in, they feel differently about maths, and they're not pricey. These obviously don't need replacing every year, it's only the workbooks.